So what ended up happening was I got freaked out. I panicked. I was on YouTube. I was understanding that technology was changing. Social media was in its earliest formations. And for me, I felt like, how do I keep a time capsule of Black queerness? So what really inspired me to do create the channel and do the videos that I specifically did was the Blacklist. So I'm gonna take you to Blacklist. Here we go. So as you can tell, Blacklist was on a site at University of Delaware. And it was created by this guy whose name it looks like I can't find on here. But anyways, here is the Blacklist, right? And what ended up happening for me was I got hip to this list maybe early 2000s, something like that. And what would happen is every couple of years I would kind of come back to it because I was like, oh my God, like I really love coming to this list because I love learning about more queer people, Black queer people in history. I also really loved being able to look at a list of people that helped me to understand that I come from a long history of Black queerness, and that, you know, this is not, you know, a lot of times people called it the white folks disease and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and that we got it from white folks. And it's like, I never felt like I got it from white folks. So this list really kind of helped to affirm and to show me in the different ways in which Black queer people existed in the world, and that those ways weren't always stereotypical, because I think that was the consensus, you know, that all gay people were drag queens. But what I loved about this list is like I got to see doctors and lawyers and artists and writers and, you know, everybody across the whole spectrum, and spectrum in terms of professionals, in terms of backgrounds, where they were from in the country. Like not all gay people come in New York or San Francisco. Here's the list that has the names of all the different people that. And when I was coming out in the 90s, it's like there's a lot of stereotypical I'm trying to figure out what I want to say about this. Black and queer. Well, first of all, what it meant to be queer, which largely was white, but then also there was these kind of misconceptions of what it meant to be Black and queer. And so this list was always kind of a safe space for me, nice, really kind of point of reference for me to feel like, okay, you know, I was a nerdy, geeky, awkward Black girl. So this list helped me feel like, okay, I'm part of this community too. I'm a little different, but I'm still part of this community. So anyways, let's go back to the list. So if we look at the Blacklist, this list was a list of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people of African descent. We didn't have queer and IA and all the others at that time, but this list was compiled by this brother. His name was Chuck Tarver. And he really just compiled a list of people, some of them still living. And he says if there's an asterisk, then you know they're still living. But if you look at this list, it's just showing you all the different names, all the different people. It's in alphabetical order based on their last name. And so anyways, what ended up happening was I would come back to the list. I keep coming back to the list, and it would always usually have a few more names on it. And then all of a sudden, there were no names. I'm thinking early 2000s, like it just stopped. There stopped being any new names. And I think, I'll be honest with you, it kind of scared me, because I was like, for me, this was the only place at the time, you got to understand at the time, for me, this was the only place where I was really able to see a really holistic picture of Black queer people. And as someone who came out of the church, I really struggled with my sexual orientation and reconciling that with God and reconciling that in myself. And so really having somewhere I could go to kind of say, you know what, you know, I'm queer, I'm okay, I'm Black, I'm okay. It was really super important to me, and it helped, you know, keep me sane when I felt like the world around me was not trying to help me affirm and validate who I was. And so, again, I would keep going back to the list maybe every couple of years, and then I noticed there was like no new additions. And then I kept coming back, and there kept not being any new additions. And it scared me for a little bit, because I was like worried about, well, there was a lot going on in the world, right? The world was changing, evolving, and Black queer people were becoming more known. There was a lot more going on, and I really wanted to make sure that there was a place for little girls and boys in rural areas down south or somewhere across the globe who needed a space to go to feel affirmed. And so I remember I was, and it was a time, it was also the time when YouTube was growing, right? And so kind of at the beginning of YouTube, and people kept saying, I kept hearing the different things about the fact that 100 years from now, people are going to come to YouTube to learn about what the world was like back in the 90s and the 2000s, right? And so I felt if YouTube is a time capsule, which is what I feel like that's what people were saying. YouTube will be this time capsule for the future. If you really want to know what was going on, you'll come to YouTube. And 20 years later, I'm not going to say that it is true to a degree, but in a kind of different way than what I thought it was going to be 20 years later. But nonetheless, I still think it is a time capsule for things. And so what ended up happening was I got freaked out. I panicked. I was on YouTube. I was understanding that technology was changing. Social media was in its earliest formations. And for me, I felt how do I keep a time capsule of Black queerness? Because I didn't want people 100 years from now to think that being gay was all about white people. I wanted them to know that not only were there other people of color, but more specifically Black people, because I am Black, and that we very much were a part of this queer community. We very much contributed to this queer community, and that this ideal of sexual orientation, gender, sex, and all that kind of stuff, we were definitely a part of the discourse, and if not influencing the discourse. And so therefore, I felt let me just do a couple little videos. I'll be honest with you. I had little video skills, but I wasn't trying to do anything special. I'm not gonna lie, I was not trying to do nothing special. I just wanted to say, here's my 2 videos are this: 50 gay men you should know, 50 Black lesbians you should know. It was that was it. I was I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put this on the YouTube thingy, whatever this thing is, and I'm done. So as you see on October 8th, 2011, which is now, it's not as long as I thought it was. I think I thought about it in the late 1990s, early 2000s, but I guess which makes sense. I didn't do anything about it till 2011. The truth is I had come up with the idea probably early 2000s, and my son used to ask me every year, he's like, when you gonna do that little gay video thing you used to talk about you gonna do? And I was like, leave me alone, I'll get to it. And every year he would ask me, which was really interesting because, and that ties into this video because on his birthday this year, he said, Mom, will you please, for the love of Jesus, do a video just saying hello to the people, all the millions of people that have watched your videos. Girl, would you okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And his birthday was back in May. And if y'all can't tell, it's February, and I'm just now getting around to doing his birthday. So anyways, but I appreciate him. He's always been my champion, my hero, my person who's always pushed me to do these things. And so in 2000, I remember working on it in 2011. If I look back at my old files, I can see where I started capturing different images, selecting the people that I was gonna put in the video. I had hundreds of people. By then, had been a part of the Black queer community. So I knew so many people. I knew hundreds of people. I had to pare it down, which was the worst thing because I did not want to do that. But what happened was when I originally did the videos, I thought, I'm gonna do 50 gay men you should know. And then I was like, do 50 more and then 100 more, blah, blah, blah. But then life happened and I just really kind of didn't do that. But I will do another video where I'll talk about the history of the videos, which will be good because I think there's some kind of commentary I want to share with you guys about how things kind of played out anyways. So anyway, so I do the video, 50 gay men you should know, 50 Black lesbians you should know. October 8th, I put it online. I'm like, forget it, I don't care, whatever. You know what I mean? Honestly, I didn't expect anybody to look at them. What I expected was that 100 years from now, somebody would come across this video and say, y'all know there was Black queer people, and these are some of them. And these are some of the great things that they did and they contributed to society. That's what I thought. I wasn't thinking anything. I felt like it was a time capsule. You know how time capsule is. You have the capsule, you put the thing in there, you close it up, and then 20, 10, 5 years from now, whenever, 100 years from now, people open it up and then they're like, oh my God, look. So that's the way I thought about it. Okay, but that's not what happened. What ended up happening was, so that December 2011, my son comes to me and he's like, Mom, you got 100,000 views. Now, he said 100,000, but I thought he said 100. And I was like, boy, ain't no 100 people watch that whole video. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Ain't nobody watching ain't no 100. I was like, okay, I guess maybe 100. Like, I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And he kept saying, no, 100,000. I was like, 100 people? And he probably was like, she cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so I'm just gonna leave her alone. So he didn't really bug me. A couple months later, he says, Mom, girl, you got, I think at that point in time, it was almost 500,000 views. And I was like, I think he said almost 500K. And I heard 500. I didn't hear 500K. And so I was like, boy, please, ain't no 500 people watching this video. And I remember I was in the hallway, go head to my bedroom. He was in his room on the computer. And he said, no, come here, come here, come here. So I went to him. He said, look. And I was like, boy, ain't nobody looking at these videos. And then my son is 6'5", so he has long hands. And he put his head on top of my head, right? And he moved me towards the computer to look at the views. And that's when I saw, oh my God, like nearly 500,000 people had watched the video. And I will say this, it was a complete shock. I think for me, I don't know. Because I didn't do it, because the reason why I did it wasn't for views, but it was like just for historical record. I was shocked, I was surprised. And I remember walking out of the room and I nearly fainted because I was just so overwhelmed by the fact that, wow, this little bitty raggedy video that I put together had captured that many views. And that over the years, like today I'm looking at it and it says 2.1 million. I'm like, what the fuck? People are still watching this thing? Like, I don't get it. And so I think it kind of like, it paralyzed me. It made me feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I just didn't know what to do with that. That was never part of the vision. It just wasn't. And so for it to happen was really amazing and wonderful. And I think what was even more extra amazing and wonderful was some of the comments that I would get. And I still get them to this day because I still get into that email and I look at the comments where people are like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing this. Just good to see like this information. And I'm like, really in 2023, 24, like it's still relevant, which I think is interesting. Like over 10 years later, it's still relevant, even though I come up with the idea like 20 years ago. I'm struggling with that, right? So anyways, but the other thing I will say, there was a, what I would call a flip side to all this, is that early on, when I first did the video, I would say 75% of the comments were negative. And I'm talking about ruthless. I'm talking about straight up like, yeah, it was pretty bad, because what ended up happening was I wasn't paying attention to it. I wasn't doing anything. What I didn't know is that was probably the best thing I could have ever done, because by not paying attention to it, by letting people put up the comments, there became this conversation in the comments, which drove the views, which looking back now understand, I look at the analytics, it's like that's what drove the views. Also, it was probably one of the only pieces of content like that at that time. Again, that was early on. I feel like early on, but it was only like 13 years ago. But anyways, so I wasn't really paying attention to comments, and so people could just comment any way they want to, and then people would fight, and then, whatever. And then finally, I think it was like, I don't know when I did turn the comments off. I do not know if the comments are on right now. I should double check that, because that probably would be good for me to know if the comments are on. And so, So there was bad comments, but then every now and then there were these really good comments, which inspired me and motivate me. So every couple of years, I'll do another video where I'll talk about the video progression, like, because I just never really kept up with it. But I did continue to put different videos on, and those videos continue to get great views. And I made money off of it for a while, until about 2020, when I ended up moving, and then you had to verify your address, and I don't know, somehow, it just took a while for me to do all that stuff, and then I just kind of got out of it, and so I wasn't really tending to the channel in a way that allowed me to generate revenue, even though I'm getting lots of views. So I'm going to redo that. So I can make a couple coins, maybe, see what happens, because I probably missed out on a lot of coins early on, when I first started doing this channel. So I just wanted to come on. I know this is a long ass video. I'm gonna try to cut it down short. Hopefully by the time you hear it, it's short. Talk about a little bit about, why I created the channel, what happened, some things that happened, and then, and to announce what I'm going to be doing with the channel. So, with like 13K subscribers, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do something with the channel. Might as well. And that is just to talk about all things Black and queer, however I want to talk about them. I feel like there's so much out there now, but I do feel like there are some real voids. And I feel like a lot of those voids are for us Gen Xers, like the Gen X queer community. I feel like boomer queer community, you hear a lot of stuff about. Millennial queer community, you hear a lot of stuff. But us Gen Xers, I feel like we don't get as much love. Or there's not enough about our stories per se. And so I think for me, I'm not going to be specifically focused on that. But I think what I'm going to be doing is really just kind of speaking to Black queerness and, sharing whatever it is I want to share. Probably going to stir up a little controversy because I'm an old lady now. And so as an old lady, I get to say whatever I want to. And so I'm excited about it. And so first of all, I just want to thank all the millions of people that viewed the video, even those that didn't want to view it and left negative comments. Like, you ain't got better things to do. But nonetheless, thank you, because I probably made some coins from that. Anyways, but thank you guys so much for being a part of the Coming Out Black family. Feel free to, if you have any questions, or if you have any, if you want me to kind of speak on certain issues or comments, or give some commentary on certain things, share a little bit about my experiences as a queer woman, more than happy to do that. I will be doing that, but if you have specific things you want me to talk about, feel free to leave them in the comment. I think I'm gonna put the comments on. I think I'm gonna put the comments on, but we'll see what happens. And thank you guys. I love you. It really brings a lot of joy to me to be in this moment. And thank you to my son, who has asked me a zillion times to just, lady, get back to your Coming Out Black. It's so cool and people need it. And I was like, so y'all need to thank him, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be doing this video right now. So peace and love. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, hey, hey.